Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Hello, and thanks for tuning in. This is Heather Davis with Eden Cultures Media, and I'm going to do the reading from Joshua chapter 1 today. And fair warning, I am going to relate this to the coming plagues, which for a focus today will be the Ebola virus. Okay, so cleanliness laws, diseases and plagues. We're going to talk about that, but I'm also going to go over Joshua chapter 1. And so here we go. First of all, where is Ebola coming from? There are different theories on this. One theory is that biowar researchers have been in the Ebola zone for a very long time, and they were secretly testing vaccines on the African population. Another theory is it comes from bushmeat. That's the mainstream theory. Bushmeat meaning bats and monkeys that they eat there. They contract it from the animal, and then once the animal gets one person sick, then it becomes a host to host instead of a source type of transmission. So it's not like everyone's getting it from a bat. One person gets it from a bat, and then it goes from person to person. Whichever way, it doesn't really matter where it came from. Both of those are not kosher. Both of those ways are not following the cleanliness laws laid out in Leviticus by Yahweh via Moses. Okay, Moses didn't make up any of those laws. He and if he did come up with them, he certainly had Yahweh's blessing at the very least. But I've already done a Deuteronomy study video which showed that they were from Yahweh. Moses was just the vessel, okay, the messenger. So I'm going to read to you Joshua chapter 1, and it really made me feel better the other day because I have been freaking out about Ebola. You know, I've been using my organic hand sanitizer everywhere I go. I pulled my son out of gymnastics because they had meets in Dallas, and Ebola can be transferred via sweat, and I didn't want him to get exposed given the long incubation period. I can put him back in if this whole thing gets under control, but I think the issue here is that a lot of people, they love Joshua, this book, and I think they're just grossly misinterpreting it, or they're just skipping verses or something. Or they didn't read the books before Joshua, so they're not getting the full context, which is more than likely what's going on. So I'm going to read to you verse 9 first, and it's great, but it's verse 9. It's not verse 1, and it's not a verse by itself. It has other things in context with it. So verse 9 says, "Have not I commanded thee? Be strong and of a good courage. Be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed. For Yahweh is with thee whithersoever thou goest." Christians love this verse. I love this verse. It gives hope, right? And I read this and I went, but I didn't just skip to verse 9. I read Joshua. And when I got to verse 9, I understood what it really actually meant. There's a reason you're not supposed to be afraid. And it's not because Yahweh is with you, because he's a magical thunderstick God up in the sky with white hair. And no, that's not why you're not supposed to be afraid. Let's read the other verses, okay? Verse 1, basically what's happening here is Yahweh is talking to Joshua, and he's leading them into the promised land, okay? Now, after the death of Moses, the servant of Yahweh, it came to pass that Yahweh spake unto Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' minister, saying, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now, therefore, arise, go over this Jordan, you and all your people, unto the land which I give you, even to the children of Israel. And then in verse 3 and 4, he describes the area that's the promised land, so I'll skip that. Verse 5, there shall not any man be able to stand before you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not fail you nor forsake you. You know, that makes me think of the parting of the Red Sea and all of the wonderful things that happened. And remember the plagues on Egypt. There were plagues that didn't affect the Hebrews. And when you watch the Ten Commandments, the movie, for some reason, You don't really know why. Well, perhaps it was the lifestyle choices of the Egyptians. Maybe it wasn't a magical thunder stick. And maybe lifestyle choices are what are leading to these plagues today. So in verse 6, it says, "Be strong and of a good courage, for unto this people shalt thou divide an inheritance for the land, which I swear unto their fathers to give them." Now here's the really important one, verse 7. "Only be you strong and very courageous, that you may observe to do according to all the law, which Moses my servant commanded you. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may prosper whithersoever you go." Only if you follow the law. Only. It doesn't say magically, be reborn and accept an idea into your heart. No, it doesn't. It doesn't say that. Okay? Only if you follow the law can you be brave and courageous. Well, why is that? Because it's scientific fact that these things back in Leviticus will protect you. Even the things that you think don't even matter. Like, I have trouble with the clothing laws, okay? I have synthetic clothes. And one day I'm going to overcome that, and I'm going to learn to sew, and I'm going to make 100% cotton clothes, because you're not supposed to change these fabrics. Well, a recent scientific study came out showing that synthetic fabrics harbor bacteria and cotton doesn't harbor bacteria. There's just one example of many. Another example, the unclean meats. Well, guess which animals carry Ebola? Bats, monkeys, dogs, okay? Things that are unclean animals. You ever heard of the swine flu? Okay, the swine flu. It's not the beef flu. Now, there is mad cow disease, but guess where that comes from? Cows eating cows. Well, what does Leviticus say about that? Leviticus says they need to eat grass. Once again, unclean. What about GMOs? Well, Deuteronomy 22:9. Don't let your seed lay with a diverse kind. So if you're getting sick from eating GMOs, once again, turn to Torah. Now, this is after Torah, but it's just a perfect example. Okay? So, verse 8. "This book of the law shall not depart out of your mouth, but you shall meditate therein day and night, that you may observe to do according to," once again, all. It says all that is written therein. "For then you shall make your way prosperous, and then you shall have good success." Then you will make your way prosperous. If you do all. Well, I can tell you, I don't do all. I try, okay? But I remember my covenant with Yahweh, our renewed covenant with Yahweh, it's written in this Bible right here. The day that it happened, my husband and I, let me see, where is it? On our renewed covenant with Yahweh and his 10 commandments, February 28th, 2013. This is 2014. A year and a half later, we bought a house. We have a van now instead of two old clunky cars. We have a new baby. Let's see, my acne's gone. I don't have weird digestive problems anymore. It's just like we're not putting groceries on credit cards anymore. We're paying credit cards down. Just all these wonderful blessings have happened to us. We're healthy. I don't think my husband has missed a single day of work for being sick. He just got promoted. He's fast tracking in his job, promoted faster than other people, than the normal rate. Why is all this happening to us? I don't think it's magic, guys. I think that let's just imagine that there is an omnipotent being. An omnipotent meaning they can see everything, even the tiniest of germs, the future, the past, viruses, every possibility. You talk about the multiverse, they can see every possibility of every dimension and universe or whatever. And they say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to help out my creation, and I'm going to tell them how to avoid these bad things and how to be safe. And so I'm going to send down a book through a messenger to write it all down. And first it was the 10 Commandments, because you got to start people off basic. And then it went on from there to Torah. and that's what that means. And so this book is making me feel much better. And one more point I want to make, and I'm not trying to be cruel or whatever, but there is a part in Deuteronomy, and Deuteronomy goes back and reviews the 10 Commandments, where Moses says to them, they're passing through the wilderness and they're passing through these villages, and Yahweh tells Moses to tell them, don't interact with these people. Don't go and be a part of their community. And this is the part where it gets really mean, right? But I'm not being racist because it's not about race. It's about choice. I don't care what color you are, what background you are, what country you're from. I don't care. You have a choice, free will, to live clean, to live these laws, okay? And if someone's not living those laws, you got to be careful hanging around them. Because if some dude goes in his backyard and shoots a squirrel and eats it and is carrying the rabies virus, that can affect your children. So like I said, it's not about his race, his color, his origin, even his religion. It's about his choices. It's just about choices. Now that is part of this religion, my religion, which I'm going to call Nazarene Judaism, not really Messianic because I'm not a fan of Paul. So I'm more specifically Yahshua straight. He was a Nazarene. I'll call myself a Nazarene. So remember when people say this verse, have I not commanded you to be strong? Yeah, I'll be with you wherever you go. Well, just that verse 7 is so much more important. Only be strong and courageous, that you observe to do according to all the law. Only then. Okay? Turn not from it right hand or left, that you will prosper. And then verse 8, it will not depart out of your mouth, but you will meditate in it therein day and night, that you may observe to do all that is written wherein. For then your way will be prosperous. Then you will have good success. So instead of sending vaccines to Africa, or they're probably already doing that there, which makes me sad, if we're going to go to Africa, we should go and teach Torah. If you're a missionary and you're going to Africa, teach them that bats and monkeys will kill them, and probably the whole world. Teach them that. Give them clean water. Give them farming. Teach them, give them an Old Testament. Just give them the book with the farming practices, give them just the Torah. Anything would be better than turning people away from hospitals or whatever. And as far as not, going in amongst them, he was talking to the general people. I'm not saying that you shouldn't, witness to people, but I kind of am. I'm kind of go back and forth on that, because in Revelation it does say, let them be. People, they want to eat their bacon. They want that bacon. They want that Christmas tree that, historically babies have been sacrificed under for pagan gods on Saturnalia. They want that. It doesn't matter what you show them in the Bible. They're going to go back to that. They were going through the wilderness. It was like, for your protection, let's just get through. Later on, okay, you want to witness to them, fine, witness to them. But then again in Revelation, it says, let them be. So there's something that changes throughout the Bible. And so the way I mitigate that is, if someone is looking for the truth, I'll give that to them. But if they're just throwing verses at me that come from Paul, Paul who said an idol is nothing, Paul who is specifically mentioned in Revelation 2:2 as the false apostle, he's the only one that called himself an apostle. The other guys were disciples. There were 12 of them. They start quoting Paul to me and I'm just like, I can't, it's so irrational. Read anything written by Paul. Anyway, so I'm going to keep going through here. That was just chapter 1, half of it. But to skip to the end of chapter 1, I just want to read to you. So anyway, Joshua starts talking to the different tribes and passing this along. And in verse 16, and they answered him saying, all that you command us we will do, and whithersoever you send us we will go. According as we hearken to Moses in all things, so we will hearken unto you. Only Yahweh be with you as he was with Moses. Okay. Whosoever he is that does rebel against the commandments, and will not hearken unto the words in all that you command him, He shall be put to death. Only be strong and of a good courage. Put to death. Wow, that is like, whew. This is why people turn away from the Old Testament, right? They were bad and they would stone people and whatever. Well, first of all, I believe Yeshua ended stoning. He said, he who's without sin, cast the first stone. He may have said, he who is without this sin, cast the first stone, meaning everybody in that circle had slept with that lady and they didn't have any right. But let's just assume the most conservative interpretation. Okay, you're not perfect, don't murder. But I think, so I do believe that changed. But let's not forget the other verse that he who turns to the pig and mouse, they'll be burnt together. That's not a punishment, and that's not being a mean Old Testament follower. That's the fact. It's a scientific fact. Okay, wow! That pigs and mice carry diseases. That when you get that disease, guess what they have to do to your body to prevent you from infecting everyone else? They have to burn your body. It's referring to a literal pit of burning, dead, infectious bodies. Those bodies of people that did not follow the laws. So they're not condemning those people's souls. They're simply saying, I don't want to get sick because you didn't follow the cleanliness laws. And that's how I feel now. So if you're going to go to Africa and be a missionary, teach them the cleanliness laws. Show them the science behind it. Okay? Don't just pump them full of a vaccine that's going to probably spread it further, in my opinion. So that's our lesson for today. I hope I don't sound like a complete, awful, mean, horrible person. But like I said, I have a science degree. I read Torah. I see it all fits. And just for a challenge, go ahead. Tell me something in Torah. Anything in Torah. Any of the cleanliness laws. Okay? Not like a punishment or whatever. But one of those laws, and see if you can find a scientific reason to back it up. And if you can't, then post it below, okay? And I'll see if I can find a scientific reason. Even the one about your hair. There's been studies that show that men with shorter hair aren't as good at hunting because your hair is literally millions of tiny little antennae. They pick up energy. They did research with Native Americans in their sleep. These Native Americans were great hunters, and the Pilgrims went to recruit them. And the ones who had their heads shaved, all of a sudden, they sucked. They weren't good hunters anymore. And so they compared the ones with their hair to not their hair, and they would sneak up on them in their sleep at night. And the ones with long hair would waken. They would awaken because I think that tiny little vibrations pick up movement, whatever it is, like a cat's whiskers. It's your power, right? It's your crown of glory. So even things like that seem completely irrelevant, there's some sort of science to back it up. And if there's not yet, that doesn't mean that we won't figure it out. So I say take the Torah on faith. You want to take something on faith, have faith that Yahweh knew what he was talking about. And follow his laws. Follow his laws that you won't be burnt in the fiery pit. And I'm not talking about hell. I'm talking about cremating your virus-infected body. Okay? I love you, and that's why I'm going to tell you the truth here. I hope that you will subscribe. I hope that you'll like on Facebook, Eden Cultures, Heather Davis, Eden Cultures Media. I spell Davis with a Y. I'm also on Twitter. Or you can just Facebook friend me. But I'm going to try, I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to put my religious-y, conspiracy theory music stuff on my personal page or my page. And I think I'm just going to put it on my page because I have too many Christian friends and I love them, but I don't want to be the one to rip the filter off of their eyes and say, Paul has led you astray and this is why you're struggling with disease or sickness or whatever. I want them to find it on their own because I don't want to, ostracize them. Anyway, I love you all. Yah bless.
I